So, as promised, let's return to our main story. Donald Trump Jr.'s meeting with a Russian lawyer during the 2016 election campaign. Donald Trump Jr. Releasing those email chains in the last hour or so. Let's speak to Peter Weiner, who's the Deputy Assistant to President Bush and Director of the White House Office of Strategic Initiatives. He's there in our Washington studios. And here with me in London is Mica Mosbacher, a former Republican official and Trump supporter. Welcome both of you here to the programme. Peter, to you first of all, your reaction to these emails. I know you've been looking through them in the last few minutes, but what do you make of it?
Well, I think they're devastating. They confirm, or beginning to confirm, the worst suspicions about Donald Trump Jr. and the Trump campaign, and maybe eventually the president himself. So they're devastating. They're not surprising. This is part of a broader pattern with the Trump people and his associates and his family members. The issue is always Russia. The lies about meetings are about Russia. The forgotten meetings are always about Russia. The outreach is always about Russia. So Russia is at the center of this investigation, and it's at the center of the Trump presidency. And I think in the end, it's going to decapitate the presidency.
Briefly, before I bring Mica in, you said devastating twice in that answer. Devastating in what way?
Well, because it shows that the highest-ranking people in the Trump campaign were actively dealing with Russia, which is a hostile foreign power, to try and get dirt on Hillary Clinton and clearly to intervene in the campaign. Now, how far this extends and the degree to collusion and cooperation that happened, we'll have to wait for the Mueller investigation. But what it shows is that these contacts were made, that Russia knew that they had an open door to the Trump campaign, and that the Trump campaign was loving it, in the words of Don Jr. So, look, we know what happened here as a general matter. Now it's just a matter of Mr. Mueller figuring out what the particular pieces of this puzzle are. Okay,
we'll come back to some of those thoughts in a moment. Mica Mosbacher, what do you make of the emails? You too have been going through them.
Absolutely, and there's a lot of he said, she said. The Russian lawyer has changed her story twice. Rod, for example, Goldsmith, or Goldstone actually, who was the author of these emails, is not an agent of the Russian government. I've been part of 5 political campaigns. We met with countless individuals. There is no doubt that Donald Trump Jr. was curious, and it was a fact-finding mission, if you will. He did not stay in that meeting long, and I can tell you the Russians did not contribute to the Donald Trump campaign. They filed all the necessary paperwork. There's no proof they took funding, for example, from any foreign government.
Well, that's not the issue here. The issue here
is mentioned earlier with your
having a meeting with someone who's going to pass on potentially damaging information about an opponent, which is coming from the Russian state, that Donald Trump Jr. knows about going into the meeting. The very fact he has attended that meeting, given all of that, that is effectively what this investigation about Russian links is all about.
The optics might look bad, and the White House might have a PR problem. But attending a meeting, he has nothing to hide. By sitting in a meeting and listening to what someone has to say, he didn't know one way or the other if that was true or not true, that this woman was representing the government. He simply went in to find out if there was any information on their opponent, which is something anyone would do in a campaign.
Peter, you're smirking. Tell me why.
Well, I'm smiling. The optics look bad because the reality is bad. Look, I appreciate if your job is to defend Donald Trump, these are not easy days. I get that, and you have to scramble for any excuse that you can find. But this is not serious. This doesn't pass the smell test. Look, we know from the emails that Donald Trump Jr. knew and was under the impression and knew the reality that the Russian government was pushing this, and he was open to it. He loved it, and the idea that Donald Trump Jr., along with Manafort and Kushner, would attend a meeting where the expectation was that a hostile foreign power would present to them dirt on another candidate, and they would welcome that meeting and solicit it and try and use it, is just stunning. And if you don't see that, your moral headgear isn't on right.
Quick final question to both of you. Peter, to you first of all. What is the next stages? What do you think the consequences of these revelations are likely to be?
We just got to wait for the Mueller investigation, the congressional investigations. We can't get beyond the facts. The facts that are out there are damaging enough, but they've got to connect the dots and eventually issue a report that says this is the full story. But look, this is going to hurt Donald Trump and his presidency because the whole Russia issue has damaged it. This is a thunderbolt for them, and it's going to be politically weaken his position. It'll hurt his legislation. And as I say, ultimately, I think that when the history of the Trump administration is written, Russia is going to be right up there in the first paragraph.
Mica, you were saying
I
no
totally
during most of that answer.
I totally disagree. We're playing this out in the media. First of all, let's get the facts in. Donald Trump Jr. has been transparent. He wants to talk with the Senate Intelligence Committee. He feels he has nothing to hide. No collusion has been proven despite months and months of this Russian narrative. It's going to be as tough as putting socks on a rooster to prove collusion with the Trump campaign, and I rest my case on that.
Quick question, you said transparent. Why didn't Donald Trump Jr., when he was offered this, simply go to the FBI?
Why didn't he go to the FBI? He said he went to the Senate Intelligence Committee. He has said for months that he would be willing to testify. He absolutely disclosed this on his documentation. We're playing this out in the media court of law rather than waiting to hear sworn testimony.
Well, there we have to leave it. Mica Mosbacher and Peter Wiener, thank you very much for joining us here on today's programme. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.